I'd like to apply this in the context of a company that we all know, Uber. Let's say you walk into Uber and you're their head of talent acquisition. How would you turn Uber's talent acquisition system around? Because I can imagine Uber receives a ton of applicants all over the place because of their brand name. And looking at Uber's job description, I've been recruited by Uber a few times. For the most part, it's just like the rest of the industry, it's a person description. So if we're thinking about the strategic objectives at the company level and then bringing it down to the roles level, how would you take that on? What would you do?
Well, let me give you a real story and then I'll apply it to your situation. This is probably 20 years ago. It was a big insurance company that everybody knows. And the VPHR had already signed a contract for us to implement performance-based hiring in their company. We'd already had done it for salespeople and had great success. But they wanted, they signed a contract to do it for their call centers. These are people in a call center who would be receiving insurance calls and had to apply the insurance and then do all that stuff related to it. So it's a pretty, in my mind, not, well, it was irrespective of how I felt about it and didn't matter. But this one, they had 5,000 people and they had all the call center operators there. And as soon as we got in there to the meeting to launch the program, 7 people who ran call centers around the country said, we don't think we need this program and we don't want to go forward. So here was the VPHR of a major insurance company, 7 directors and VPs of call centers, 5,000 people, and they basically said, we're not going to do it. This was kind of, and I was ready to launch the program that day. So it was not a positive situation. And they then said, we only have 10% failure rate in the first year. We think we know what we're doing. We don't want to change that. And that kind of stunning. So then I just asked this question once I caught my breath. I said, so are all the 90% that stay all equally good? Or is there a difference between the top third and the bottom third of the people who stay? And then one of them said, no, there's a big difference. I said, how much? I said, well, about 50 to 100% productivity. So I said, what if we could set up a program to just hire the top third? And they would just melt it. They said, oh God, I sucked them into that one. I said, but let me benchmark what the top third do differently. So then I just said, and this was real time, but we then made it more intense. I said, I want you to write down in each of your call centers, and if you have to call people up to get it, I want you to write down the names of the best people, your most productive people in those call centers who are top employees who coach others. I just want to understand what they do differently. So that was the question of building a performance-based job description. It was interesting that they're all very productive. They all understood how to handle multiple calls coming in at the same time. They quickly, within a week or so, they could learn the data entry system at the time, whatever it was. Then I said, what's the one single thing that differentiates all of these people from everybody else? It was interesting. This took about a half hour to figure it out. I am going to write names of people down. I said, why is that different? And then we went back and there's about 6 people, all women, who were different, 100% attendance. That was the one single criteria. They had to show up every day and they had to see the job. And I said, why are these people? They said, well, this is not a great job. It's not a career job. I said, will anybody really like this job? Because we got to find now candidates who would see this job as a good move. Maybe not a career move, but for them, they would see it as a good move. So I said, I want to understand the behavioral components of why these people like it. And I said, I'll be happy to talk to them if we need to, but you guys probably know. And I think there was 2 women who were directors, but the rest were guys too. So it turned out that they found the job. It was a very structured job. It was like 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 2 15-minute breaks, half-hour lunch. Is very regimented. It was a very structured job. But the reason they liked it is it gave them chance. Most of the women were, I'm going to say 32 to 45, had kids going from school. They could arrive right after school started, be home at 4:45. They all live within 10 miles of the call center. So it was a structured job, but it gave them a lifestyle that allowed them to make pretty good money, very, very good benefits. And then we just wrote advertising around that component of here's how you can have a great job and a great life as well. So that was the component. But if you don't understand your customer, you'll never get there. So now I go to the Uber story you just mentioned, Roy. I would benchmark what are the spots they're looking for. Let me talk to people who are good, who like this work, who stay, and we'll see if we can mimic that and build a hiring process around it. I mean, that's how it actually would be. I don't know, but that's the concept of what we've done many, many times. We did it also for division of Verizon Yellow Pages, where they were hiring people to take Yellow Page ads. And this is really interesting too for the Yellow Pages. This was an entry-level job. And all it was to renew Yellow Page subscription. People might not even know what Yellow Pages are. It's this big yellow book with all classified ads in it, but I don't think it actually exists today, but it was pretty cool. And then I was actually at a call center with these people who would renew Yellow Page subscriptions. And there was this woman who said, again, pretty much didn't want to do it for that job. And I said, well, tell me about the best people. And it turned out that they said, oh, they have to be very detail oriented. If they put the wrong thing in, they don't charge it. And it's like the date, the company name, the address, and all this information. I had to get exactly precise, and it had a real detail orientation. Then they would call people up in different campaigns around the country when the Yellow Pages were coming out, and they had to have this script, and they had to go through the whole thing. And then I said, okay, tell me about the best people. This was a call center. It was right by DFW Airport in Dallas. If you've ever been there, it was a hangar, I think, but I might not have been because I don't exactly remember that. But I remember the woman who was running it was this Texan, wheezing smoker. I mean, it just really a hard woman. There's no question about it. And again, against it. I told them about your best people. The people, the most productive would get the most, and that was the key. They had to get 95% or 90% subscription renewal. So if a plumber in Peoria posted a $75 ad, you try to get them to get a bigger ad, or at least a $75 ad. And the woman, there was about 3 people who were good. And I said, what makes them good? And she said, oh my God. She said, they're not all what I just said. They're BSers. They call people up and don't follow the script. They just, hey, hi, plumber in Peoria. How's your weather? What's the weather like? I'm here in Dallas. And they just would BS person for 5 or 6 minutes. And, oh, by the way, do you want to renew your subscription? Oh, sure. But if they went into, hey, I'm from Verizon, want to renew your subscription, 50% did it. But if they BS for the person and talked to them and was friendly, oh yeah, happy to do it. So it had nothing to do with all those details. It just you had to be a good BSer. And I think they changed their philosophy as a result of that. So, I mean, it's when you don't know the work, you can't get anything. You just make judgments about things that aren't true. So as an engineer, you say, let's just figure out what's going on in the real world. I mean, that's really the heart and soul of hiring. Let's go figure out what goes on with the real people you want to hire, and let's kind of duplicate that.